So you're trying to decide if you should move to Oviedo, Florida or not. Doing the research to make a move to a different city can be time consuming. So in this video, I'm going to give you everything you need to know about living in Oviedo, Florida. Let's talk about the good and the bad so that you're able to make a well thought out decision before you make your move. Let's get to it right now. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything there is about living in Orlando, Florida, and the surrounding areas, then subscribe below and tap the bell notification so that you are the first to learn about the current market here in Orlando, Florida. My name is Lee Bennett, and my team and I get calls and emails every day from people just like you looking for help on making their move to Orlando, Florida. And we absolutely love it. Whether you're moving in 9 days or 9 months, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. All of the information is in the description below. That way we can help you make a smooth move to Orlando, Florida. So as pro number one, we're gonna have to go with the small town feel that Oviedo gives. Oviedo has a population of about 40,000 people, but you would not know that just by living here. There is a sense of connectivity and inclusiveness when you move to Oviedo, Florida. This community is packed with lovely people, nice people, kind people, and you will feel like you're appreciated and wanted when you move to Oviedo, Florida. When people move to Oviedo, Florida, they move here to stay here for a long time. And you can tell just by the way that these houses are built. They were built in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, but people have kept them up. You can go through any neighborhood and you'll notice that these homes that were built earlier and they're older models, but they still look like they're brand new in a sense. People just take pride when they live in Oviedo, Florida. They take pride in their community. And the fact that these schools are rated A and rated highly, according to niche.com. You know, as a realtor, I can't tell you what schools are good or bad, but by niche.com, they are rated pretty high. As a matter of fact, the Seminole County District has been rated as the 4th best school district in the state of Florida. And so people come to Oviedo because they have that aspect of it, knowing that their kids will get a great education. There are magnet schools throughout the area and different private schools. So there's a lot that Oviedo offers as far as family oriented. If you're family oriented, Oviedo just evokes a quiet, laid back lifestyle in a close-knit community where people know each other. They can rely on each other and where people feel connected. The engagement and the connection are at the root, creating the small town feel that Oviedo gives. There are plenty of friendly people and many groups to join to feel connected. Oviedo on the Park is a great place to go have fun and meet other people that are in the community. Kids love the splash pad. There are dog parks. There's a pond where you can ride swan paddle boats. And they have a walking trail around it if you want to get your exercise in or just clear your mind. They have an amphitheater where concerts are happening, and there's a farmer market. All right, and then in other parts of the city, you have Plant Town events consisting of bacon, bourbon, and blues, taste of Oviedo. But yeah, just being in Oviedo, you'll feel inclusive and connected because of that small town feel that it gives. Now, it's not that small town feel of having one stoplight, one gas station, one church that everybody goes to. It's actually the opposite. So when you move here, you'll feel like you have plenty of things to do. You have hospitals, you have different services that small businesses provide, massage parlors, salons, cleaners, different services, and throughout the town. So when you move here, you feel connected and you feel like you have help and you feel like you have things to do throughout the week. So with that, that's the reason why pro number one would have to be the small town feel that Oviedo gives. Okay, so pro number two is going to have to be the location that Oviedo is in. It's a centralized location when it comes to the proximity to the different beaches, Orlando and the different attractions. Now let's go over the geography of Oviedo. So at the northern part of Oviedo, you have a more rural area near Lake Jessup and the Black Hammock. And so the more south you go throughout Oviedo, the more commercialized and the more urbanized it gets. The western part of Oviedo borders State Road 417, which offers quick access to the 408 and I-4, which allows you to get to Orlando and other popular attractions such as Universal Studios and Disney. Now living in Oviedo, you're about 20 minutes from downtown Orlando. Like I said, taking the 417 and then hopping on 408, you'll be able to get to downtown Orlando fairly quickly. And so as far as the proximity to the beaches, you're 45 minutes to an hour drive to the East Coast beaches, such as Daytona Beach and then Cocoa Beach. And then you're 15 to 20 minutes from Winter Park. And Winter Park offers a lot of restaurants. They offer different things that Oviedo just doesn't have just yet. Now mind you, Oviedo is coming up and with developments and growing, but it's fairly newer to that stage of development when it compared to Winter Park. So Winter Park is going to be your best friend if you're looking to do fine dining and better nightlife and those type of things. When it comes to shopping and everything, Oviedo has some different types of options, but if you want the high end or the luxury retail, then you'll have to drive about 30 minutes to Mall at Millennia, which offers name brands such as Dior, Tiffany's, Gucci, and Neiman Marcus. Or you can drive drive 30 minutes to the Florida Mall, and then you have Vineland, which is about 50 minutes out. If you are planning on working at UCF, which borders the southern part of Oviedo, then you're about 15 minutes from UCF if you actually live in Oviedo. And you may be even closer than that depending on what part of Oviedo you live in. So Oviedo would be a great place to live if you're working at UCF or any part of that area. And then you're 25 minutes from the Orlando International Airport and then 40 minutes from Disney World, which is kind of a good thing because you're close, but not too close where you have to deal with a lot of tourist congestion and with the traffic when it comes to traffic, and then the inflation of prices due to higher demands in different stores and whatnot, because they will add those premiums to different things when the tourists come in town. So you don't have to deal with that by living in Oviedo. That's a major plus. Now living in Oviedo, you don't have that many high paying jobs other than the ones with the UCF and Siemens, but Oviedo is fairly close to Orlando where you can access those high paying jobs which are prevalent there. All right, so this is the reason why the location of Oviedo is pro number 2 in my book. All right, so now the third pro for living in Oviedo, Florida would have to be the nature scene. So when you come to Oviedo, you'll notice that there are many trails. There's a state forest, Little Big Econ State Forest. You have a lake on the northern part of Oviedo, which has some of the most alligators you will ever see. All right, so the researchers say that it's the most highly dense alligator populated lake in all of Florida and maybe even the US. So you can check out Lake Jessup. You can do airboat rides by going to Black Hammock. You can do the airboat ride over Lake Jessup and check out all the alligators and see what they're up to. You'll be safe, all right? So you won't have to worry about them biting. There is also a nursery, a plant nursery, and Lucas Nursery in Oviedo, Florida. And at this nursery, you're able to check out different plants, from exotic plants to regular plants and local plants. And then also you're able to check out the butterflies and feed butterflies the nectar. All right, so it's a cool experience, and there's a lot that you can do as far as nature-wise in Oviedo. So that's why this will have to be number 3 on the list for living in Oviedo, Florida. All right, now let's transition into the cons of living in Oviedo. But before we get there, make sure you comment below any pros or cons that you have had of living in Oviedo, or if you just visited Oviedo. Let us know your experience of being here. All right, con number one would have to be the fact that there aren't really any high-paying jobs in the city of Oviedo. As I mentioned before, the southern part of Oviedo borders the UCF campus. So there's a lot of retail jobs, there's a lot of customer service, hospitality jobs in the area, but there aren't any really high-paying jobs. And so unless you're in secondary education, high-level management positions, or some type of agriculture, then you're going to have to commute about 20 to 30, sometimes 45 minutes out, depending on the industry you're working in. Some of the major employers in the area are Siemens and, of course, the UCF, University of Central Florida. So that's the reason why con number one would have to be the lack of high-paying jobs in Oviedo. All right, so now con number two of living in Oviedo, Florida, it would have to be the fact that there are limited fine dining experiences and nightlife options. Now, there are certain restaurants that you can go to, take your lady out on a date or your man on a date. But if you're looking for more options, you have to go over to Winter Park or drive down to Orlando. And so when it comes to those areas, you have the Flemings, you have the Ruth Chris, you have the Chop Shops, Chris Steakhouse. And so those are options that you can have in those other areas. But in Oviedo, you just don't have those options. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you have Tabla, which is a pretty decent restaurant that you could take your lady out on a date or your man out on a date and experience some type of fine dining, and that's on Oviedo on the Park, in Oviedo on the Park, and some other ones too. But for the options, you have to drive out of the city limits to get those experiences. And then as far as the nightlife, you just don't have the options in Oviedo, Florida. You have certain bars that you can go to, but as far as bar hopping and then clubs, you don't have that experience here in Oviedo, Florida. So that's why that would have to be con number two. All right, so now con number three for living in Oviedo, Florida would have to be the lack of single-family new construction homes. Now there are some new construction single-family homes. However, there are more townhomes that are being built and apartment buildings that are being built. And so the inventory for new construction homes is limited. So when you move here, you have to understand that this is primarily a resale market, where the homes were built in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Now these homes, like I mentioned before, they're well maintained and kept up well, especially in these HOA subdivisions. And so you're not just going to get a home that was built in the 80s and 90s and it's still having the same layout for the most part. There's going to be some upgrades to these homes, but you have to understand that the whole structure of the home is going to be based upon that era that it was built in. And so you won't have those modern type architectures and structures of the home when you come to Oviedo to buy a house. And I will say these townhomes are beautifully made, and they are a great option if you're in that $300 to $375 price range. Now, if you're in that range and you're looking for a single family, then you're going to have to take a look at these homes that are built in the 80s, 90s. All right, but that's a reason why con number three would have to be the fact that there is a lack of single family new construction homes in the inventory. And so that was the last con. Now let me know in the comments what you think about living in Oviedo, and if I missed anything, make sure you let me know and let others know so that they are aware before moving here. We want to make sure that this is a complete guide for those that are looking and researching this area. All right, so with that, if you are looking for a realtor in the Orlando area and have any questions and need some help, make sure you reach out to me. My information is in the description below. And with that, Lee Bennett, I'm out.